We're going to get going now with our next speaker. He is from Nutanix. Please welcome to the stage. This is Sahil Bansal.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for joining. I hope everyone's had a great conference. I know we're on day 4. Everyone's excited about all the good stuff that we heard, especially about Outpost being GA'd, or at least that's what we at Nutanix were really excited to hear about. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about what hybrid cloud is, and for the purpose of this session, hybrid is going to mean when we have workloads that share data that have some burstability between on-prem and public clouds. I work in product marketing. I report into a marketing organization. Us marketing folks love buzzwords. Polycloud, multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, I've heard it all. So just to align, hybrid means on-prem plus AWS with some sort of shared data between them. We'll talk about what does it mean about security as a shared responsibility and a category called cloud security posture management. But before we get in, I know not a lot of folks over here might be familiar with Nutanix. If anyone has heard of Nutanix, I'd be happy to give you some swag afterwards. Who is Nutanix? We are a hyperconverged infrastructure player. We have traditionally served the data center market where businesses, enterprises use legacy 3-tier architecture like the one shown on the right, where you have distributed storage, each with separate storage controllers. The compute layer is separated by clunky networking. And what Nutanix brought to the table, we're about a 10-year-old company now, is integrated compute, storage, networking, along with our own virtualization layer, so that our customers get a single software-driven private cloud infrastructure solution. So we've been a private cloud player for the longest time, where most of our customers are in the enterprise space, running their business-critical apps on Nutanix. But as I was mentioning, Outpost GA'd, so even AWS is recognizing the benefit of running apps in both on-prem and public cloud. In fact, during one of the keynotes, I saw a slide that said, customer requirement dictates that some applications need to remain on premises. And that's where we, Nutanix, also fit into the picture with our hybrid cloud platform now. We've gone beyond simply being a private cloud provider to working with AWS, where our single software-driven solution that combines compute, storage, networking, virtualization now runs on AWS bare metal instances. We support T2.metal instances. We are going to add more instances as we go along. But some of the differences between us versus some of the other hybrid cloud players is that we integrate natively with the Amazon VPC. So that it means that you can use your existing AWS accounts. You don't need to have a separate account to run your apps in a hybrid fashion between on-prem and AWS. You can use your license of software licenses back and forth between AWS or on-premises. If you have a Nutanix software license, you can also run it in our hybrid environment. You can use your existing AWS credits for your hybrid apps as they migrate from on-prem to Nutanix. And so what that gives is a true single platform where you don't need to manage separate tools for both on-prem and hybrid environment. I had created this slide with the assumption that when I will be talking to an audience at AWS reInvent, I may still want to set some context about why hybrid cloud, but I think we already heard enough of that in the session, so I'm going to skip over the slide. I'm sure all of us are now, most of us are now on board with why hybrid cloud is a better architecture. That's what we hear from our customers. This is a survey of Nutanix customers that have traditionally been on-prem, but also want to use the benefits of public cloud in terms of scalability and agility. As we've been tracking our own customers migrating from on-prem to a hybrid environment with AWS, we noticed certain new challenges that came up that weren't necessarily as obvious in a on-prem only world, right? And especially not least around growing costs, very quickly growing costs, and around ensuring security compliance, because your security constructs end up being so different between on-prem only versus a hybrid world. By no means is this slide intended to point any kind of fingers at anybody over here. These just happen to be some of the most recent security breaches that we heard. And these were because, almost all of them were because of user errors. Not anything wrong on the cloud side, on the cloud provider side, not anything wrong with the inherent practices at a company. It's just because there's so many knobs to control in a hybrid environment we saw a user error that led to a misconfigured firewall, allowing access to a bad actor that should not have had access to that firewall. Storage buckets. I've been a young engineer in this domain. I have left S3 buckets exposed to the world, not because I was intentionally trying to do anything wrong, just because it's so easy to forget some of these knobs that you need to control. Database instances exposed on public IP. I see them roughly about one incident every month or so. And the reason why that happens is because a lot of businesses, enterprises rely on manual practices to control and secure their cloud resources. Yeah, I'm sure everybody in this organization, in this audience is familiar with the phrase shared responsibility, right? What does that actually mean? Well, AWS is responsible for security of the cloud. That includes the fundamental underlying architecture, which we never have to worry about as AWS users. It includes all of the networking that goes into building that architecture and all of the virtualization that enables our cloud experience. But as customers of AWS, we are responsible for security of our data running in the cloud. So AWS secures the cloud, we secure our cloud. I live in an apartment complex in San Francisco. My landlord has a security guard outside the building. They have cameras outside the building. But if I leave my door open to my apartment, that's on me, right? So that's the kind of security as a shared responsibility that people talk about. What else? You can consume your infrastructure obviously in a few different fashions: IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, and at each layer you can see what you are responsible for slightly differs in terms of how the infrastructure is being consumed. If you're using an IaaS, you're probably still responsible for the virtualization layer that goes on top of the infrastructure. In a PaaS, all you're responsible for is the security of the applications and of your data. And I guess a little bit to the people as well. The people are always the end customer's responsibility. SaaS, the customer's responsibility is the least, but then that's also where you lose, as a customer, you lose control over a lot of other layers. There isn't a right or wrong model over here. It's just about understanding what am I responsible for, versus what the cloud provider is responsible for, and then correspondingly building a security posture management tool. What do we mean by security posture? How does my security state look like, right? If I'm using a mixture of on-prem, distributed, edge clouds, what am I responsible for? So that's the category called CSPM, Cloud Security Posture Management. It wasn't a phrase designed by Nutanix, but rather by Gartner. And so that's the category that we intend to focus on, trying to guide our customers that here are the things that you need to think about. How do we go about identification and discovery, right? Discovery of the resources. What does my inventory look like? How have I configured my compute instances? Which load balancer is running unencrypted data? So discover those, identify which users have access to those. Assess your compliance with them. There are so many regulatory policies. If you work in a financial services domain, you probably care about PCI compliance, or the auditor cares that you are in compliance with PCI. HIPAA, NIST. NIST is the most common one that we see. How do you know that your application, your cloud, your data is going to pass that compliance audit? Risk identification. Risk is such a wide word. It could mean anything, right? My one unsecured security group running in a dev or test account from 5 years ago, that could be a risk. My SSL certificate that just expired 2 hours ago, that could be a risk. So we need to identify those risks and move beyond DevOps to DevSecOps, identifying these risks in the code before they make it to production. But nothing is good if I am only identifying those risks. How am I actually enforcing my security policies? All of our companies, all of our enterprises are going to have different risk appetite. We work with a customer in the SLED domain. They were slightly more okay with having unencrypted data. We work with a customer in the financial services domain. They absolutely did not want any kind of unsecured data, right? So at the end of the day, it's about detecting, balancing it against your risk appetite, and remediating. That's what a CSPM is supposed to help you do. And that's where we have an offering in this space called ZBeam. The Xi branding is all about every service or tool that Nutanix offers, which is managed by Nutanix, right? So we have a bunch of different, our own hybrid cloud with AWS, as well as some services that help to detect, remediate, and validate your level of compliance. And we provide a global security heat map, right? This could be all of your AWS accounts. This could be your on-prem infrastructure, which preferably would be Nutanix, but we would also like to help you with other on-prem infrastructure providers. We give you 550 out-of-the-box security audits that are based on industry best practices, recommended by AWS, based on our own experience. We help you remediate these failures with these security vulnerabilities in quote-unquote one click. I say quote-unquote one click, you need 2 clicks just to log into any tool. The idea over here is you can remediate certain security vulnerabilities directly from the SAS Beam. Things like openly accessible TCP or UDP ports, things like expiring SSL certificates. But there are some that you may not be able to access. For example, do you have 20 people in your company that have admin level access? You probably don't want that. And that's not something that we can remediate from our tool, but we'll give you all the steps so that you can remediate. Let's say I never want a load balancer in my production environment that is accessible, that has unencrypted data. You can create that policy in Beam saying, Cloud AWS, this is my account, look for this tag, look for load balancer service. If you find any instance, any resource over there that does not have encryption enabled, shut access to that down immediately. All of this happens in roughly about 30 minutes or less. But no matter how many policies we provide, no matter how many audits we provide, we'll never be able to meet every enterprise's needs. And that's where we bring in custom policies, custom views, custom audits. We had customers that wanted their security posture evaluated in the United States by each territory, right? Their teams running in US West versus in East, in the South. But they wanted the security posture evaluated in the rest of the world by the applications that they were running on, application 1 versus 2 versus 3, just their requirement. So in order to have one security audit that could cover everything, that was really hard to do. What we did was we created custom views, customized segmented views, so that each security admin of each geography or each environment could look at their own security posture and update it accordingly. These are available custom audits that can be added to our existing list of 550 out-of-the-box audits. So the possibility is endless almost, right, what you can audit with Beam. These are available today as a Python script, templated Python script. Of course, we help our customers create those Python scripts. But very soon, like before the end of this calendar year, we will have a SQL-based query engine where even if you're not a developer, your operations team can go in and plug in various things, almost like a Lego block, right, and add onto the security audits. So, and you can also validate your level of compliance with those regulatory policies. Will show you what kind of process issues or documentation issues or cloud configuration issues that you need to resolve in order to pass a compliance with these regulatory policies. How do we do all of this? Well, first step is collecting your cloud inventory, right? So we run a batch scan in the cloud accounts that you onboard with Beam. You can give us either read-only access or read plus write access. We gather all of the services, all of the instances that are running along with their associated metadata, run the security audits on the inventory. So we're not continuously making API calls to your cloud environment. Rather, we're running all of those security audits on the inventory that we've pulled. And then we validate, did this audit pass or not? Do I have a storage bucket that has global read-write permissions on it, right? And then we check for, do we have permission to fix some of these audits? If so, then we will go ahead and act upon those fixes, and we will look at what are the custom audits that you might have created to go along with our out-of-the-box audits. How does the architecture look like? For doing this kind of security posture management in AWS, it's pretty simple. We just integrate with your cloud environment, give us the ability to pull your inventory, access to CloudTrail, and that's basically all that there is. We're continuously monitoring the CloudTrail logs. For doing the same thing with our on-prem environment, because this is a hybrid tool, so all of this also runs in the on-prem environment. Our Beam SAS engine runs in AWS US East, but that doesn't matter. That's only for our internal knowledge. The customer doesn't care where our SAS service is running. We do have a lightweight agent that goes into our on-prem environment, and then we report back all of the data to our UI. And so to recap over everything that we've talked about, why do we care about a security posture management tool that can help you improve, or what are the things that you should be looking for? Being a SaaS model helps us to get very quickly started. The first batch scan takes less than 24 hours, sometimes even 6 or 7 hours. Beyond that, it's all event driven. Meaning as soon as any event happens that changes your CloudTrail logs, we will monitor that event, run the appropriate security audits, check on the reporting conditions, send out an email, send out a Slack alert, send out a PagerDuty message in less than 30 minutes. And 20 of those 30 minutes are because the CloudTrail just takes that much amount of time to update, right? So it's for us to actually do all of this, remediation reporting is less than 10 minutes. You should be thinking about how to customize and meet your own security requirements, and make sure that if we are an enterprise that's covering multiple environments, then our security posture management gives us a single pane of glass. One of our happy customers from Total Gas and Power. We have a few more of these. We have a booth over here in the back where we can share case studies, obviously show you a live demo. And as I mentioned, it's a SaaS service, Beam. There is a 14-day trial. Obviously, we'd be happy to work with you if you need more than 14 days for the evaluation. Ultimately, what we are trying to do is help you improve your security using one single tool that runs in both on-prem and public cloud environments, help you validate your level of compliance, detect security failures, and remediate them. But that's not all. Our tool Beam also comes with cost savings recommendations. So we have a separate module that is bundled in together with our security module, where we are looking for things like unused resources, compute instances that have just been floating around for the last weeks and weeks, and nobody knows because you're dealing with thousands of resources. How to purchase reserved instances. How do you evaluate how much reservation should you purchase? They can really make or break your budget. So we do an intelligent analysis of your infrastructure and tell you how much reservation you should purchase and of what type. Helping you with migration to spot instances, helping you automatically shut down or bring up resources when you don't need them. I have a Devo test environment. I never run it at 2 a.m. on a Saturday, hopefully. I can pre-configure that in Beam, and it will shut it down at a pre-configured time, bring it back up. Sounds really trivial, but all of this adds up to more than 35% in public cloud cost savings, while still being bundled into our security posture management tool. So you're effectively getting two tools for the price of one. That is all that we have today. I have a couple of minutes left here to take some questions.
All right. And if anyone has a question, if you'd like to raise your hand, I will happily bring you the microphone so everybody can hear your question. Anyone? Going once, going twice. Questions? All right. I think we're good.
Thank you. Please do fill out the session survey so that we get feedback from you. We have a booth over here, booth number 2037 in the back over there, right next to the AWS Cloud Cafe. We have our colleagues here who'd be happy to show you a live demo, and look forward to learning more from you and improving hybrid cloud security. Thank you.
Thank you, Sahil.